Hi there. I'm so excited about my guest, Vanessa. She's my amiga, my mentor, my teacher. So I'm so excited to have her on for her to share. So Vanessa Codorniu, she's known as a teacher of teachers and healer of healers. Vanessa is an acclaimed international intuition teacher, clinical hypnotherapist, and soul business mentor who has hosted more than 12,000 intuitive sessions in the US and Latin America in her 20 years of service. She's been featured on Univision, Telemundo, Yahoo News, Shape Magazine, and as a summit co-host for the Shift Network. As creator of the School of the Healing Artes, Vanessa has integrated her 20 years as a clinical hypnotherapist, priestess, shamanic practitioner, astrologer, and teacher of intuition, Reiki, and the Akashic Records to create her signature transformative and enriching experience that yields practical tools and lasting inner shifts. The renowned Argentine-American started doing readings at 16 after her family confirmed that she was seeing and knowing things accurately about people who were no longer with them. She guides seekers to break through fears and connect to the practical power of their intuition so they can serve the world powerfully with their gifts. The host of the Biz Bruja podcast since October 2019, Vanessa is a writer for Be Latina News, The Examiner, Wild Women Rising, and co-author of 365 Ways to Connect with Your Soul. Vanessa was on the board of Reveal, the Next Generation of Women Spiritual Leaders Conference, along with Megan Watterson, Gabby Bernstein, Latham Thomas, Raw Goddess, and others. She's guided souls along other teachers, including Marianne Williamson at Rock Your Voice Woman Conference. Vanessa is proud of her work as an empowerment facilitator for over 650 future young women leaders at the Bella Abuzug Young Women's Leadership Institute, creating innovative courses to support self-empowerment, inclusivity, and diversity. She has spoken and led workshops in New York City, Miami, LA, Costa Rica, and Panama, and online around the globe. And she's also a stepmom, an amazing mentor, and my friend. So welcome, Vanessa. Oh my gosh. And I know that's like not even everything. You do so much. So that's just like a little bit of everything that she's done and doing.
And it's long too. I was like, I could have edited, but thank you so much for sharing that bio. I'm so happy to be here with you. And you know, I adore you and just honored to be here and talking about this because I think it's so important.
Yes, yes, yes. And our topic today is practical intuition, how mindfulness strengthens our intuition. Vanessa, what does mindfulness mean to you, first of all?
So mindfulness for me is like a basic ability. I think all humans have it to be fully present, to be conscious, to be aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or in trauma or overwhelmed by what's going on around us, right? In spiritual terms, I would call it being grounded and being present. It's a quality that every human being has. And it's not something that you have to like work really hard and like fight for or like earn or all the stuff. It's really something that the more we let go, the more we allow, the more we can access what's within us. It's that presence, it's that non-judgmental part of ourselves that is fully aware, fully present, and that, you know, we all have within us. So that's kind of like the definition that comes to my heart right now.
I love it. I love it. How does intuition fall under the mindfulness umbrella? You know, we've talked about so many different topics, right? Mindfulness is this huge umbrella and there's so many things under it. And I personally saw intuition being part of this mindfulness umbrella. From your perspective, how do you think intuition falls into the mindfulness umbrella, falls under?
So I feel like you're not intuitive if you're not being mindful, right? And I'll explain that in a minute. And through the process of being mindful, you become more intuitive. So it's like they're both a part of each other and they need each other. So intuition, the way I can define it really easily is like knowing without knowing how we know, and also being able to make certain decisions without that turn out well for us, or making certain choices from like a feeling or a gut instinct or a knowing, without having any analytical basis, right? Like having proof of information. And so how do we get to this place where we trust our intuitive knowing if we're not mindful, right? When we're in anxiety, when we're stressed, when we're like, but I need it to be right. I need my intuition to be right, blah, 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 right? Then we're not allowing ourselves to be grounded and conscious. So the intuition is hard to get to. And then with mindfulness, the more we let go of that inner critic, the more patience we have for ourselves, the more we can observe our emotions and our thoughts and our world and our lives without harsh judgment or putting ourselves down, and not judging it as good or bad, but just as what is, more intuitive knowing can come through. So I think it's like they're intertwined.
I love it. How did you start out on this journey of intuition, and how would you define intuition?
So I started pretty young. My family was from Argentina. They were already people who believed in intuition. They connected with the departed. They did different altares with glasses of water to bring clarity and healing to those on the other side. So I grew up with a belief in ancestors. I grew up with stories of ancestors. I grew up knowing that we all got feelings, and what I was say sueños, we got dreams, and we would sit around, the kitchen table or for dinner and be like, oh my God, I had this feeling, I had this dream, and we would listen to it. So growing up in the type of home, that it's normal, even if you go to school and you tell people, they're like, you're weird. What are you, like a witch? That's so odd, So growing up in America, being South American and having this different perspective, I would say that we're Catholic based, but my parents always felt, both of them, that spirit and creator and energy of being is within us. We didn't have to go to church to go get it, right? That's a choice. When we went, once or twice a year, but it was more about God is with us, the universe is with us. We didn't use that word, but just creator. And so in that kind of, home that I was growing up, I trusted, and a lot of information came through. I mean, things like my brother, who was born with a single ventricle, he's deceased in 2020, but he did live a longer life than any of the doctors ever thought he'd live. And he actually outlived all the kids who were born the month he was born 40 years ago. He outlived it because all of them passed away at 7, 10, 15 because of the situation, the condition. And I remember before he was born, I had this dream where I was going up to my mom and she was in bed. And I was saying, I know it's a boy, mommy. I know it's a boy. How long does he have? How long does he have? Right. And I knew it was going to be a boy. We didn't know yet. And I knew he had an issue. And I was 10. So that was my dream. I was really hard to say it to my mom. My mom was like, I think you had a dream. I said, I think you had a dream. And we were both like, okay, what is your dream? What is mine? Right. And I didn't want to scare her. So she's like, well, I had a dream. You came to me and said, mommy, are you going to die during this birth? Are you okay? Something's wrong. I know something's wrong. And I said, Mom, I think something's wrong with the baby, right? And so even at 10 years old, and then he was born, we found out, within 24 hours that he was turning blue, and he had to have heart surgery, and then he survived that, and he went through many surgeries and lived a good life. But even at that age, I already knew things, or I knew like that person's not good and I don't like them. And then they would try to touch me, like molest me. And so these were things that before they even did anything, I would know. And that laid the groundwork. And I think it's really important. I think that as Latinos, Latinx, we're taught to fear this, right? Because of religious persecution, colonization, Judeo-Christian religion's supremacy of there can only be God and nothing else, when we forget that a lot of the prophets were getting information intuitively, right? And they were connecting to source and connecting to that. And so I started out that way. And I've shared this story before, but I'll share it real quick. So at 16, someone in my high school had a Ouija board, and I don't recommend that we practice our intuition with this at home, my people. And they came up to me and like, oh my God, the spirit is saying that your grandmother's going to show up to somewhere that she's not invited. So I went home, told my mom, hey, this person at my luncheon, turned out that's what happened. My mom and my grandmother had an argument, and she was not invited to confirmation for my sister and brother, but I had already told her she's showing up. She showed up from Miami in New York. So my mom's like, bring that Ouija board home. in the spirit of her journalistic, interests, because she was a journalist, she blindfolded me and I started to, move my hands. Suddenly I heard, saw, felt, knew. I just knew things. It was just like, it wasn't like I had to breathe, I had to do this, all this stuff. It was like, bam. My mom kept saying, just let go, just allow, just let go. And I was like, okay, I'm not. She's like, there's no issue. You're not being judged. It's just fine. And, I saw very specific information. Like I think I've shared this before, a woman with reddish hair with a little boy dripping wet coming out of the river with a car half in the river. And she was saying, take care of Willie. That was my dad's name. And when I told my mom this, she's like, just keep going, just, keep going. And more information came through that turned out to be my great-grandmother that I never met, like my great-great-grandmother, actually, and future stuff that hadn't happened yet. So when I took off the blindfold, my mom went and bought a framed photo of my dad, pulled out the back, and showed this woman's picture that I'd never seen. I never heard anything about her. So she was not known. She's like, your dad had a girlfriend before me. She and he broke up. She married someone else. And unfortunately, she had a car accident with this bridge collapse and she fell into the river with her son and they died in the car, in the river. And so, when that happens to you at 16 years old, it's no longer, oh, I have a feeling somebody likes me, or, oh, I don't like that person's energy. And then they get all handsy and grabby and touch you. It's literally information that already happened, that is going to happen, and information that was already in process of happening that came through. And so I started that way. I read for adults for a while, probably 9 months. And then I woke up one day because I was like, I'm an older sister. My parents, English is so. I already have to work hard to translate everything. I already have to navigate the United States and New York City, right? And New York City is not easy. Like I was on subway trains at 13. You know what I'm saying? It was back in the day. And so it wasn't like I was coddled, getting on a bus, going to a school, or somebody was driving me. You're taking 3 different subway trains to get, and see everything. You see it all. So this, intense, tough-ish life in New York City, I just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And I woke up and said, I don't have this power anymore. But the truth was I had it. And so that's what happened. And then many years forward at 22, 23, I started reading professionally. And then it was always something I did on the side. It was something that I had to learn how to figure out not to bother people with information, because, some people aren't ready to receive it, and that's okay. And then in 2009, when I was laid off for the third time in 4 years, all my friends were like, do what you do. And I went full time. I went full time for a year, but then returned to corporate for surgery. But then I got laid off after the surgery, like literally the day before the surgery, actually. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not meant for the corporate world. There's a reason why I've been studying hypnosis, energy healing, sitting in Sweat Lodge. And then I just started doing it, even though I really didn't know, and hit 6 figures my first year online.
Wow.
So, and I've been here for 10 years now. So.
Oh, wow. I love it. And then let's see. So we talked about intuition. So why do you call it practical intuition?
So I think that, we see so many movies where they want to make it so fantastical, and there's goblins and these things and fairies. And, you could see fairies, you could see energy. I'm not saying you can't, but they make it like this fantastical stuff where it's like out there, where it's not present, where it's like more metaphysical, fantasy driven. And the truth is, my belief is, we were born with this. This is our birthright. If we're not spiritual, we could say, and we're very scientific, we can say that we are biological beings made of energy, because everything's made of energy, right? And so we're always sending and receiving invisible information. And learning to decipher the invisible information is what's going to make you a good intuitive. And the way you decipher your intuition, the way I decipher mine, is completely unique. Now, that's for scientific folks, right? We're sending and receiving invisible information, energetic information. For those that are spiritual, we feel like we're extensions from source, that maybe we have the seed of God within us, or the seed of the creator within us. Then it would also be very intuitive, right? To say that we are carrying that within us, that ability. And so if it's part of us, I believe it's here to help us live on earth. It's here to help us become more healthy. It's here to help us keep our children safe. It's here to help us choose what is the best school for our child, what is the best route to drive on this, during this hectic storm. I believe that humanity, our ancestors, had intuition to keep us safe. Because if we start thinking about all the things, Yvonne, I don't know if you've ever thought of this, like all of the things that our ancestors ever dealt with, like the craziness, not having medical care, not having surgery at one point, not having electricity. You're like, how did people have babies and no morirse de infección, right? Not dying of infection, survive the cold, not have like a warm comforter and socks, right? Like the whole thing. And you're like, they were feeling their way, they were sensing their way, and being away from electricity and technology. I'm sure our ancestors were way more intuitive, attuned to the moon cycles, to their own physical cycles, and attuned to the environment. So they're like, the land is saying, no, we can't plant the corn here. We got to do lettuce over here. We got to do that. And so I really believe that intuition is not really about fantasy and which hats, though you want to wear one, go ahead. I think it's really to help us navigate being a human being on Earth.
So I think it's amazing how our ancestors were able to connect without any technology. I mean, thinking back, like I didn't have a cell phone until college, and even then I'm like, how did I navigate before? And then thinking even further back, how did our parents navigate? And then before. So yeah, how did our ancestors navigate without any technology? And you're right, without electricity, without the socks, without all of this stuff, right? It's like, because they were intuitive, they were connected, and they understood plants and the medicine in the plants, and everything around. So it's just so beautiful to make that connection, with our ancestors. Like, intuition it's everyone, has it. I mean, do you feel that we are all intuitive? I mean, it's like, from my perspective, it seems like we all, right? But
yes,
why do you think like some people feel that they're not intuitive?
That's a great question. So we are all intuitive. We're intuitive in different ways, and we're intuitive in different ways and to different focuses, right? If you have legs and you can walk and run, right? You could say, well, these 10 people run. Maybe one person out of those 10 people is going to be an Olympic runner. Maybe some people are going to run in school while they're little, and then they're never going to run again. Maybe somebody's going to become a runner, like as a hobby, right? So it's something that we have, depending on how we were raised and depending on our belief systems, it's going to affect us. Like, if you're watching too many movies where, again, you think it's supposed to be fantastical, there's got to be a voice from heaven, there's going to be little sparkles, all this stuff, right? Then when you feel, I shouldn't go there, you're going to be like, oh, it's my own voice. It's just my imagination. So what? Do you know what I mean? So I think that it's religious persecution sometimes, and pressure that it's not right, we shouldn't do it. It could be society. Once the age of enlightenment came in, people weren't so focused on the metaphysical. They were more focused on what can we prove? 1 + 1 = 2, right? And science, and being able to test everything through science. And so we started moving away from that, from the magical, spiritual. But Albert Einstein, one of the greatest scientists, says that intuition is one of our sacred gifts, right? And so, and that everything, even his scientific explorations, are based on intuition. And so we got scared, we moved away, or we're seeing it through a lens of what the media is telling us. So if you think somebody's going to be like, no camines por ahí, with a different voice, right? And you're like, who is it? But meanwhile, you're just walking, you're like, I shouldn't go there. And then you go there and you get mugged. And, before you were like, it's just me. And it's like, wow, I should have listened, right? Or you're somebody who gets a gut feeling, right? Like, there's different ways to receive. And I think that if you're expecting to get something you saw on TV or what you heard from your tia, like some people say to me, oh, but my tia has dreams and I never have dreams, so I'm not intuitive. Well, your tia has that gift, but maybe you have a feeling, you walk in and you're like, ooh, I got a creepy feeling. Or you get that gut feeling in your stomach. So most people talk about gut feeling. Guess what, Yvonne? I don't have gut feelings. I don't ever have a stomach feeling. I do not have a stomach feeling when I walk places. I don't have anything weird. I literally hear and I know this is not good. Let's get out, or, somebody was killed here or somebody was abused here. Like, but it's all up here for me. right? And it's not in my belly. So if you are used to thinking that it's supposed to be down here, but you're hearing it, seeing it, or feeling it, you might be, I'm not intuitive. If you're someone, so I was in Panama teaching a workshop on intuition, right? And I talked about what is a mental intuitive, a spiritual, emotional, all the different types. And this one person said, we decided the workshop ended and we were going to come back and continue. And we decided to take a break and go into the town. We went into town, into the little marquetas, little markets. And when we turned around to go back to our location, she said, I'll jog. And I'm like, how do you know how to get to where we're going? She goes, I'll figure it out. And she just went. She hadn't been to Panama before. And so I'm in the car like, ay, Dios mío, que la bendiga. I was like, I hope, let her be protected. And she didn't speak Spanish. So we get to the location and I'm there sitting outside. And suddenly she arrives all sweaty. And I'm like, how did you know? She goes, I don't know. I have the sense about these things. I go, wait a minute. You told me you weren't intuitive. You're a physical intuitive. You sense things in the space. And so I think that we don't think we're intuitive when we're judging it by we've seen by other people, by what we expect it to be. And that's where we have to allow ourselves to let go of preconceived notions around intuition and honor whatever's coming through. And the more that we honor it, the more it comes through.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely had those feelings of now, yeah, before I felt like, yeah, it was a gut feeling, but now it's like, I know, or I'll hear, and, it's like, yeah, this person, like, I don't know about this person. And later on, I find out something about them. I'm like, man, I was right, or I'll tell my mom, you know what, da, da, da. And then later on, she's like, you were right. And da, da, da. I'm like, wow, so it's like listening, to my intuition. It's just so like, now that I have been, practicing more, like just connecting and, just, yeah, like let things happen, right? Instead of like forcing something, or it's just been really beautiful to feel like I'm protected at the same time.
And you are, and we are. And I love that you're like listening to it more and receiving it more. And that's why I talk about this so much. I've been talking about it for a long time. It's because we've just denied it for so long. And it is a practical gift of survival and thriving. Because you can ask yourself and figure out, is this a relationship for me? Is this for me? Is this the best opportunity for me? And of course, what gets in the way, and that's why we need, mindfulness helps us, is when we start judging, right? Well, I'm not as good as the other person. And what if I go in and I'm not going to pick this up, right? Or impatience, right? Feeling like, well, I didn't have what Vanessa had at 16, so that's it, I'm done. Or having your own agenda that you want to control or enforce, right? Like sometimes people are afraid of their intuition because they don't want to know. They're like, just keep my marriage the way it is. Or look, I really like this woman and I don't want to know anything. I just want to be friends with her. I want to like her. Or I am not ready to leave this job. Yo no quiero saber. I don't want to know. I don't want to know about the bad stuff. And I think that a lot of people, because they get anxious, right? Then they block. And there's so many people who talk to me, like so many people who are like, oh my God, this thing happened to me. And I knew it. I knew that I had to leave this job. Or I knew this relationship wasn't for me. I knew the day I walked in, but there was fear. And so they've convinced themselves to do something. And so a lot of times, because we've been raised with, fear. There's not enough in the world, fear of lack, fear, well, you better get your hands in there or somebody else is going to kick you out and take your piece. That we accept things that are not what we really want. It's happened to me, right? It was 2009. I really needed a job. The minute I walked in, before I walked through the doors to get interviewed, I heard, girl, you need to turn back and get out. And I was like, but I need this job. I can just do it for a little bit. That's where I had 20 tumors grow. Wow. I didn't have them. And they kept me there from 9 a.m. to 9 at night. I stopped belly dancing. I stopped a lot of things. And you couldn't leave. It wasn't like you were like, it's 5 o'clock, I'm done, or 6 o'clock. They would call you like, why'd you leave? I didn't tell you to leave. Wow. But you're paying high rents in New York. You're making $120,000, right? At the time, right? 13 years ago, when you're like, I need to pay my rent. Who's going to pay it for me? And so we all make these decisions where we feel like, Dios mío, there's not going to be anything else. And I want to tell you, when I finally left, I left them, and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. They humiliated me. I cried. And then I went home and everybody's like, just hang in there, and get another job. My guides were like, you've got us. Ancestors, the whole thing. And so I went in there really well dressed and I said, I need to talk to you, to the CFO. And when he closed the door, I said, Jen, I said, you think I'm some girl from Queens. You don't know who I know. And you know who I was talking about? I was talking about Creator. I was talking about Spirit. I was talking about my guides. And he got all scared. I said, you don't know the connections I have. And you abuse people here and you abuse me and you think you can get away with it? And he was like, what do you want? What do you want? I'm like, I want you to walk me out, not throw me out with a box the way you do with everybody else on a Friday. You're going to walk me out, you, the CFO. I want the money that you owe me. I want this. I want that. I want this. And he's like, well, we're going to think about it. And 3 days later, he called me and he goes, you're going to get everything you want. And so they laid me off. And that's when I started healing and, I was like, oh my God, why did I do that to myself? But these are lessons. These are lessons. And again, they come out of just desperate situations. So if anybody out there is watching this and you're like, oh yeah, damn, I made a decision or I chose something because I felt like my back was against the wall and there was no other choice and this is what I could do. It's okay. And just asking ourselves, well, what are we learning from this? I learn now, no matter how scared I am or desperate or whatever, if I walk in, someone is like, girl, turn around and leave. I'm going to turn around and walk out. And then be like, I'm in your hands, figure it out, universe, But these are real things, right?
Yeah.
These are real things. Like for a moment, for people who are watching or even you, like how many times, Yvonne, or have you ever had a feeling, a knowing, a gut feeling something, and you didn't listen, and then you were like, damn, I was right.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And how many times did you listen and you were like, woo, I saved myself, right?
For sure.
And so these are the simple questions we can ask ourselves and be like, you know what? I am intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Can you guide us through some basic practices to begin tapping into our intuition that, to wrap up this beautiful conversation, let's have some action steps that we can take for those of us that are new or, curious.
Yes. Thank you so much for asking that. So one of the things I want to start off with is allowing yourself to be a beginner. Okay, you already have this within you, right? But you may still be learning the language around it, right? You may still be learning what is your yes? What is your no? What is this little cosquilla? What does this little tickle in my stomach mean? You're going to be learning even though you already have this beautiful tool. And so please allow yourself beginner's mind, have patience with yourself. And if you allow yourself to trust the process, right, without setting a lot of pressure on yourself or be like, okay, if I'm going to do this 3 times, then I better be like the super wizard, psychic medium of the universe. Just no. Erase. Allow yourself to be who you are, where you are in this moment. It is acceptance and it is letting go of the preconceptions and preconceived ideas that is going to allow you to tap into your deep knowing. And allow you to be more mindful. And so the first thing I would say would be wherever you are. So the first exercise that I would say real short is, yes, let's do a brief exercise to feel into how we receive information. So feeling your feet on the ground, feeling your booty in the seat, allowing your eyes to gently close, right? And just breathing really low in your belly and your stomach, and just breathing in and exhaling. And just observing your breath. There's no way you need to do it. There's no way you need to exhale it. You're just noticing your breath going in and out. And as you allow yourself to observe, allowing your feelings, to come up, or this is cool, or it's silly, or anything, or oh, it feels relaxing, whatever it may be, just allowing your feelings and your thoughts to come up. And as you allow yourself to just let go of your mind, of this thinking part of you, and continue to just notice your breath going in and out. And then at this time, I want to invite you to call in your higher self. And that's the deepest, wisest part of you, right? Your intuitive knowing, your soul. And just call it in your heart. And just, you could say, and if you are somebody who believes in God and prays, you could do a little prayer. Or you could just say, hey, universe, back me up in this exploration. Whatever the words are, but just saying, I call into my higher self, my angels, my guides, the universe. And then continuing to observe your breath. And as you allow yourself to go even just deeper into this relaxation of noticing your breath, I want you to call up a time where you had a feeling, a knowing, a word, or a sensation or gut feeling, and you didn't listen, and it was true. Right? So if you can remember that memory, and remember, where did it affect you? Was it something in your heart, like a heaviness or an energy? Did you get like your little hairs on your arms standing up? Was it a gut feeling, like in your stomach, in the pit of your stomach? Was it a thought in your head? Was it a feeling, a thought, or just something that you knew? You're like, oh, this. And then you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to listen. And so just taking note of how the intuition came through. And now just breathing in and noticing your breath again. Bringing up another memory. And this memory is the memory of when you had a feeling, sensation, and knowing of something, and you listened and it turned out great. And so you could bring in that memory now and just breathing in. I paid attention and it turned out great. And now if you could remember, was it a knowing, a feeling, a sensation? Was it in the pit of your stomach? What was it? And then just taking another breath in and allowing yourself to go deeper and asking your deepest knowing, what do I need to know right now? What do I need to know right now? And taking a breath in, noticing it, and then allowing any word, sensation, feeling. What do I need to know right now? Just allowing yourself to observe any sensation, change, any feeling. What do I need to know right now? Then gently giving thanks to our higher self, angels, guides, the universe, and gently opening our eyes. So in your memory, Yvonne, what did you remember? Was it seeing, hearing, feeling, gut feeling?
So for me, it was hearing, and also a thought that came up. Maybe for some people might think like, oh, intuition is God's voice. For those that are, more religious, or like, well, what do you mean? Like God is the one that speaks to me, and that's who I hear. Yeah. So that was something that came up, and I wanted to share, because that's how I felt. It's like, well, I'm listening to God, right? It's like when I pray, I'm asking, I'm speaking, but when I meditate, I listen. And so when I'm silent, it's like, oh, I'm listening to God's voice, guiding me and protecting me. And so I definitely felt like that's me, right? I hear.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's perfect. And I love that you said that it is God's voice, right? And when we are praying, we're invoking it. When we are meditating, we're receiving it. And this was just a brief exercise to begin to give you more clarity on how you're receiving intuition, right? Now, it's really important for us to ground, to feel like we're present in our bodies, to pay attention to our breath, because if we're like scattered and we're like, ay, porque el homework and the future, and oh, I didn't do this, and I feel so ashamed and so guilty, and I'm so stressed out, we're not in present moment. And so what we're gonna hear is our stress, right? What we're gonna hear is the to-do list. What we're going to hear is our trauma, our pain, our issues, things that are unresolved. And that's why it's so important. And so you can do this sitting down. You could do it when you're taking a walk with your eyes open. And you're breathing in, taking in the sun, the colors, the beauty of nature, and just, paying attention and going, what do I most need to know right now? And staying open. And maybe you'll observe a bird that lands in a certain way. You'll be like, oh, the message from the pajarito, from the bird. And you could also do this journaling, right? You could do this when you breathe and you close your eyes and you just take note. You say, what do I most need to know? And we write that down. And so moving forward, once you've got that basic exercise of what do I most need to know, and then paying attention for how your body receives, how you're receiving it, you can start asking, what do I need to know about this job interview? What do I need to know about this summit? What do I need to know about this hot date? Will it be hot? Is it worth it? And it's important to say before we close, I don't want to go over too much because I know we got the timing thing. There is a difference between fear and intuition. Because a lot of moms reach out to me like, I have this worry, I have this worry, I have this worry. And then nothing happens and nothing happens and nothing happens. And that's when I say to them, did somebody in your family get kidnapped or harmed or hurt, or the worry that they're having? They're like, oh yeah, my tia or my this. So sometimes we have ancestral fears. Sometimes we saw the papers, the newspapers or the media or whatever it is, and we're carrying this fear for our kids, right? And so it's really important to get into present moment through breath, Tai Chi, meditation, prayer, walking, dancing, singing, chanting. I mean, there's so many ways, right, to do this, to get in that present moment, this mindful moment where you are mindful of how you're breathing, how you're showing up, and noticing if you're being reactive or not. And we get to that space of presence, that's where you can really receive intuition. And it's clear because it's not tainted with fear. It's not tainted with expectation. Like a woman once called me and she says, I walked in a room, saw this man, I knew he was my husband, but my intuition betrayed me. I wound up marrying him. We were together 10 years and now we're divorced. And I hate my intuition because it told me it was going to be my husband. And I said, girl, but did your intuition say that your husband was going to be with you forever? And she was like, no. And I go, right. So this is also what we need to learn as we're doing this inner knowing and this exploration is what's us, our everyday mind of what we want. Oh, I'm going to get married. It's going to be forever. And then walking in and knowing, oh, that's my husband. We don't know how long, right? Maybe we don't. We hope it's forever. And or a job where you're like, yes, this is my job. It's going to be great. I'm going to be here. I'm going to climb the ladder. And it turns out to be a bridge job before you build your business, right? Mm-hmm. Or that perfect, situation, that friend that you thought and the intuition's like, well, they're not your friends anymore. And you're in denial, like, no, pero yo no quiero. And then you're getting it, wow, they're jealous right now because they have issues. And so it's important when exploring your intuition and tapping into it to be in a very mindful and present place, to be aware that we all have our agendas. We all know we have expectations of what we want things to look like, and that your intuition is objective. It's not always going to give you exactly what you want. I worked with somebody the other day in a past life regression where they were like, oh, why do I keep waiting for this person who's married to be with me? And it turned out their intuition kept saying, your job with this person is to love them unconditionally. She translated it as she's got to wait for him forever. But we can love people unconditionally and let them go. Right? But she thought it meant I'm going to wait here. And then when she went in again into her intuitive knowing, it was like, oh, I could love him and let him go and understand that in this life, they're working on something else with somebody else. And I'm going to get mine in another relationship, what I want from someone else. And so it's important to not jump to conclusions and also to continue to allow ourselves to develop.
I love it. I love it. And especially, as parents, to also model for our kids, to listen to our intuition, listen to God's voice, because they're so young and then they disconnect, right? So I'm always like asking my kids, so what do you feel? Do you sense anything? It's like they're still trying to figure it out, but it's like I don't want them to lose that, and as children, they're so intuitive and they're connected and it's just so beautiful, right? So, as a mom, definitely I felt like we definitely needed to talk about this, because it connects to our kids too, the future ancestors,
and to trust them, because if my mom had shut me down, I don't know where I'd be and who I'd be right now. Yeah. Right? If my parents had said, "Estás loca," and no, you're making things up, but they paid attention and they noticed that I was on point. And even if they were like, "Oh, you're just scared of that," I'd be like, "No, there's something bad. I don't like it," and then they'd be like, "Oh, she was right." And they would tell me, "Oh, you were right." So it's really important to support them, to explore it, to trust themselves, even if somebody is looking like they're smiling at you and they're being nice to you, but they get an icky feeling, go away. Tell mama, right? And so these are all important things. And I think it's wonderful that you're doing this interview and this work, because we're raising our kids in different ways now.
Definitely. Yes. So mamas, watching, connect with your kids and, listen to them and maybe think back, were you ever shut down for something that you felt or heard or sensed? So think about that as well. So thank you so much, Vanessa. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate, your time, your energy, and sharing your pearls of wisdom with all of us. And tell us, how can we connect with you and learn more? And, anything, any offerings that you have that we can look forward to?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate you so much, Yvonne. I've seen you just grow and thrive and bring so much to the world. And I'm just like, yeah. Your biggest fan over here. But I know you have a lot of fans. People can find me on thebizbruja.com, my website. You can find me on thebizbruja on Instagram. And I'm cooking up something. It's in the process. But I'm also, founder of the school. And so if you're interested in exploring your intuitive knowing, just check out the school. If you're interested in exploring Reiki, Akashic Records, just go to the School of Healing Artes or PM me, DM me, whatever. And just, it's our time to reclaim our ancestral gifts. It's our time to reclaim our practical knowing and to work it and not let it be used by other people, but we use it for ourselves and our familias and our businesses and our lives and our health. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you as well watching. Bye-bye. Hi there. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for this beautiful conversation with Leslie. So this is Leslie Priscilla. She is a first generation non-Black Chicana with Raramuri lineage. She is a mother to 3 bicultural children and a certified parent coach with over 14 years of experience. Leslie shares her medicine by offering coaching, workshops, support, and advocacy for Latinx, Chicanx families locally, nationally, and internationally via Latinx parenting. Leslie's vision is a movement rooted in children's rights, social and radical justice, the individual and collective practice of nonviolence and reparenting, intergenerational and ancestral healing, cultural sustenance, and the active decolonization of oppressive practices in our families towards liberation. Leslie, I am so excited about this topic. It is such a much needed topic. First of all, thank you for saying yes to participate in this beautiful summit that is so needed. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, Yvonne. It's such an honor to be here, and thank you, and I celebrate you for all the work that you're doing. And yeah, it's just so amazing and so necessary.
Thank you. Today's topic is called Ending Chancla Culture, Decolonizing Our Familias and Raising Future Ancestors. I absolutely love the way you phrase this because they are the future ancestors, right? And I call them the future world changers with the work that I'm doing. It's like, it's like to think that they're the ones who are going to change the world, who are going to be teaching others and changing generations. So our work is so powerful, and I'm so excited to collaborate with you on this topic and on this summit.
Yeah, it's so mind-blowing, I think, the way that we can see our children not just as children, because I feel like our paradigm kind of sees children as like, children don't know very much. There's always like behaviors that you have to fix, but it's like, no, you're actually raising somebody's grandparent. You're actually raising somebody's partner. You're raising somebody's, aunt or uncle or great grandparent at some point. And so I love the reframe of that because then it gives so much purpose to what we do.
Exactly. So first of all, what does mindfulness mean to you? This is a, Latina Moms Mindfulness Summit, and some people are, maybe new to the word mindfulness, or maybe they think, oh, it's just, meditation, yoga, breath work, like that's it, right? But there's so much more, right? So first of all, what does it mean? What does mindfulness mean to you?
I like the idea of thinking about mindfulness as like a childlike state, right? And so when we're children, and so much of what I do is try to help parents connect back to that child version of themselves that had curiosity, that was able to be in their bodies, that was able to be present in the moment. Like when you're walking with your children down the street and suddenly there's a roly-poly on the sidewalk and they stop and they're going to just observe that roly-poly and they're going to maybe poke at it and you hope that they don't squish it. But that has to do with that presence, right? And that mindfulness and just being in your body in that moment and being okay in that moment, right? So it's not just being excited about a roly-poly, but it's also those more challenging times and being with yourself. And I think for so many of us that were raised in Latinx culture, my parents were Mexican immigrants, and so a lot of us were not encouraged to stay in our bodies, right? We were not encouraged to sit with those difficult emotions, to sit with certain joys, to laugh, right? Sometimes we were like, no te ríes, like that's not okay to laugh right now. And so for me, it's been reconnecting back to that version of myself that knew how to be present, that did listen to my bodily cues, that did honor my big feelings before somebody told me that they weren't important, before somebody told me that, my experience wasn't valid. And so it's reconnection and presence.
I love it. The roly-poly vision, girl. Yes, that's happened many, many a
I
times.
loved
So
roly
cute.
polies. I know. I really loved them. Like I remember being this child. Like I really do remember being this child when I was probably 3 or 4 years old and going outside and just being so like in awe, right? You're just like in awe of the world and you're looking around and you're just like, oh my gosh, these trees have these flowers and I'm making like tacos out of all the little plant stuff. And so it's playful, right? Like I feel like mindfulness, yes, people think that it's like, oh, you have to be like so zen and in meditation. It's like, no, you can be doing whatever it is you're doing. You could be cooking, you could be outside, you could be playing with your kids. And as long as you are present in that moment, right? Because so much of our paradigm also is conditioned to think about the future and think about the past all the time, which makes sense. It's natural. We're always like learning from our past and applying it to our future. But I think that there hasn't been as much value placed on just being here now. And I think our children remind us of that, which I think is so valuable.
Yes, they totally do. They always remind me too. And it's like cherishing those moments and then hearing people is like, oh, enjoy it, while it lasts. I'm like, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I
I'm
know.
fully here, and
Yeah.
having, all these devices around us, it's like trying to teach them to like, look, I'm putting my phone face down. I'm fully
Yeah.
present. I want to hear you. I'm here for you to listen to what it is that you have to say, because yeah, it makes such a big difference being present and
Yeah.
them learning from us, because I see so many families and it's like everyone is on their device and they're not having a conversation.
Yeah. It's an escape. Like it really is. I see it as it can be very addictive. Like I know that I find myself mindlessly scrolling sometimes, and then I can kind of like see myself from the outside and be like, what the heck are you doing? Like, why are you not here? And part of it, like, it's not to shame myself and it's not to shame ourselves for not being in the present moment, right? I remember this one really, I don't even remember what event it was, but it was Alanis Morissette, who I admire so much and so deeply, talking to Daniel Siegel, who is like, one of the mindfulness, like, gurus, right? And so they were having a conversation and Daniel Siegel says, yay, mindfulness. And Alanis Morissette says, yay, not mindfulness, right? Like that's just as valuable because it gives you the opportunity to recognize when you are not in that state. And so just coming back from that, you can value both, right? It's kind of like the shadow and the light of it. And so for me, that's just as valuable. Like being able to notice is still mindfulness. Like, oh, I'm escaping right now. I'm not wanting to deal with the discomfort. I'm not wanting to deal with whatever tension I'm experiencing here. I'm not wanting to deal with the anxiety. I'm not wanting to reconnect with myself right now, right? Because that's scary. That's vulnerable. That could elicit pain of some sort or more discomfort. And so I have so much gentleness for parents, especially, right? Because parenting is hard. I mean, I don't have to say that. I could say that a million more times. And like, we need to kind of normalize the fact that it is something that sometimes you do want to escape, right? It's so demanding of you. And so in order to be present with your children, like you are required to be present with yourself. And no one taught us how to do that.
Exactly. I mean, especially within our community, it's like, you're constantly doing, or as mothers, right? Like seeing it like from, at least from my, lineage, it's like the moms are the ones doing everything and
Yeah.
we're the last ones and
Yeah.
we're still serving from an empty cup I didn't even know what that meant until years ago. And I'm like, wait, what does that mean? I have to feel my what? How?
Yeah.
How does that look like? What does that mean? And like, wow, so learning so much, right?
uh,
So tell me,
Definitely.
how does ending chancla culture fall under the mindfulness umbrella?
So I'll explain kind of what I mean by chancla culture, because I think when people think about la chancla, they immediately envision what la chancla is. And so to me, it really is like an emblem of power over dynamics, right? And so those power over dynamics can exist with a chancla, with other forms of corporal punishment, but they can also exist with like verbal chancletazos, yelling, shaming, a lot of things that we grew up with as children. And it also manifests into the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we treat ourselves as well, right? And so, what are the ways in which I oppress myself? What are the ways in which I don't validate my experiences? What are the ways in which I'm not being present in my body? And I equate ending chancla culture with the decolonizing our familias, right? With the raising future ancestors, because to me, part of the decolonization work has to be that reconnection back to our bodies, right? We, prior to colonization, were connected to our bodies, were connected to the elements, were connected to the land. And those are all things that support us and sustain us in being present and in moving through life slowly and more gracefully and less rushed and less stressed and less sick. And so ending chancla culture has to include those internalized chancletazos, that internalized oppression. And we are liberating ourselves from that, right? So it's like, no, I'm not going to raise my children with la chancla, and I'm also not going to continue giving myself those chancletazos, right? I think about like El Chacal from Sábado Gigante, who is like the judge, right? He comes out and he has his trompeta and he's like, I'm going to tell you whether you are good or you are bad at what you're doing. And so all of us kind of carry this inner chacal as well, that judges us, right? This is a bad feeling. This is a good feeling. This is a bad sensation you're having. This is a good sensation. And I'm not knocking judgment in general, because all of us need judgment to survive. But at the same time, when we start putting ourselves in those good and bad categories, which when you're raised within chancla culture, that's what happens, right? So you are good, you get rewarded. You are bad, you get punished. And so we grow up with this mindset of good equals reward, bad equals punishment. And then so we go out into the world with that same trompeta at everybody else, especially at parents, especially at mothers.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, I know, I'm like, it's a lot. We have so much work to do to undo it. There's so much harm to undo. There's so much beauty to our culture, to our people. So much passion, and color and celebration. Like, it's not that we are not moving into that celebration, but really ending chancla culture is being able to hold the duality of feeling grief about what happened to our people, what happened to our culture, what happened to us as children, and also celebrating the fact that we as a people, as a culture, are still here, are still wanting to be thriving, and we as individuals are still here and are now connecting with each other, right? And so when we can kind of be in that present moment of like, I'm grieving, but I'm also celebrating right now, that's power. Like, that's so much power, where we don't necessarily have to even bring judgment into that. We don't have to bring ideas of good and bad into that, because you just are, and you are sacred just the way you are.
Wow. So powerful. That's why we're having this conversation. It's like, oh my goodness. It's like, yeah, like thinking of, and like it goes deep, right? Like,
Yeah.
What's happening, what's happened, and unlearning as well,
Yeah.
undoing, peeling. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
We're going
Somos como
deep.
cebollas, and you're gonna cry. When you start opening that cebolla, you're gonna start crying.
Yeah.
But that's good, right? Like, that's water, that's the element of water, and it's cleansing, and it's good to feel into that. But you can't do that alone, like, you have to be supported in that, and you have to have other people who understand how much there is to undo and how much there is to reclaim as well. Because again, this didn't start with our people. Like, La Chancla wasn't something that we came up with necessarily, these ways of being with children where you have to punish them and you have to correct them, you have to fix them. That's all very colonial. If you look at the history of childhood in Europe specifically, prior to the conquista, prior to the conquest, those practices came to this land. And then they convinced us that that's our culture, right? And so now whenever we're parenting with connection, nonviolence, attachment, gentleness, whatever you want to call it, we're told that's not our culture, that's white people shit, right? But when you understand where it comes from, you're like, no, I actually reject that. Like, just because white people suddenly, claimed it, this is stuff our ancestors knew forever. That nature is good for you, come on, you know what I mean? Like, these are indigenous practices. That collectivism is healing, that's indigenous. Like, you can't say that comes from white people. White people tried to erase it, right? Tried to erase us, not white people, like the Europeans that came. I'm not knocking white people, right? Because I am also like a white Latina, so I have this privilege as well. But I'm talking about the Europeans that came and did not value us, that did try to erase us, that did try to commit mass genocide, that's enslaved, so many indigenous and Black folks as well. And so for me, it's like, how do we separate that from who we truly are and really reclaim that and say, no, our culture is actually about connection. Our culture is actually about, harmony and being together in ways that feel loving and feel good and are community based. And so it's not anything new. It's just, for us as Latinx people, it takes remembering, it takes remembering on like a deep level, and mindfulness supports with that. Right? That's what mindfulness does for us. It helps us to remember, not at a cognitive level, not here in our brain, because our brain is going to want to make sense of it. I want to understand. I want to, like, what is the good? What is the bad? Is this the good way to do it? Is this the bad way to do it? Like, that's the brain. And so for us, we have to move deeper into our heart space, right? Like, our heart will let us know what is true and what is real. And our heart is that same heart that our ancestors had, that beats exactly like the hearts that they had, that they still have, and so it's remembering at that level, at the heart space level, at the body level.
That's so beautiful to think of it that way. Like, we're still connected. I mean, they're still in our DNA.
Yeah.
So it's there. We just forgot, basically.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. What led you to this journey of, like, now empowering families, to do better, and especially for our future ancestors?
I think so much of it was that reconnection to myself as a child, right? Like, I remember I was hit as a child. My mom did a lot better than she received. Like, she was hit with much harsher items, and she hit me mostly with, like, her hand. I did get, like, el gancho sometimes, right? But most of it was, like, verbal and shaming and, like, emotional. And she's come to the place now where she can acknowledge that. And I share about this very openly because I've been in therapy forever. But I think when my little sister was born, I was 10 years old, and my mom was not really in a place where she could mother the way that we needed our mothering, right? Like, we couldn't really connect to her because there was a lot of chaos happening during that time. And so I think that was one of the first times where I recognized I want something different from my little sister. And she wasn't my child, but I approached it as if she were my child. And I was like, I want to be that safe space for her. I want to be able to be connected to her. And I was, like, throughout her entire childhood, and we're still very close. She's visiting right now from New York. She me abandonó, me dejó, she left me. Like, after everything I've done for, no, I'm just kidding. But then, in high school, and then after high school, I took child development classes, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, there's so much power here. At the time I was like, teachers, right? Like, teachers have so much power. And then I became a preschool teacher, and I had my own classroom, and it was easy because I would go home at the end of the day. I was like, oh, like, I can connect with these kids, and we can sing songs and do crafts. And then I would go home and I would sleep like the single person I was. And then I got pregnant while I was a preschool teacher, and I started college. I transferred to university after having been at community college for like 6.5 years, did their entire program. And then when I transferred to university, I recognized I majored in parent education and in child development as well. And there were a lot of people that still believed in corporal punishment, even as I was graduating, still did not understand the connection of punishing children, of shaming them to brain development. So a lot of my study was, even though I graduated, it was self-study. It was like, oh my gosh, like, and there's this whole body of research out there that's showing us the better way to grow children's brains, and that's not being taught, right? And the other thing that's not being taught is the cultural piece. So it's like, I can read all of these books and I can understand the brain and I can get down on my child's level or whatever, but there's other layers there. You know, there's the cultural level, there's the generational level, there's the ancestral level, there's the historical level. Like, you have to bring all that stuff in when you talk about parenting. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to the people that you're working with, if you're working with Latinx individuals specifically, right? And so my vision has always been to kind of be this bridge where it's like all of this is coming together, and we can parent in these ways, and we can honor our culture, you know, and we can sustain those values, right? We can still raise respectful children. We can still raise children who value familismo and are connected to us, but we cannot do it at their expense. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can't do it. We can't be like, I'm going to force you to be respectful by punishing you, because that's not true respect that we're teaching. You know, the only way to teach respect is to model respect. And so now that my child is going to be 11, like, actually, this works a little bit, you know, like she respects and she listens because her entire life she has been respected and she has been listened to. And so I don't have these same power struggles that maybe my mom and I did, you know, when I was trying to exert my autonomy and I was trying to be independent, and I was like, I want to have a voice, but what would happen, right? What would happen when you had a voice?
Yep. Calladita te ves más bonita.
Exactly. Exactamente. Yeah. And that's how, and maybe that wasn't said explicitly, but that's how you felt.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the culture, right? It's like just something that you just knew.
Yeah.
You just don't speak up. You don't use your voice.
It became our culture. It was not initially our culture.
True.
You know, we were matriarchal. We had a voice, like we had a say. The empresarias, like I took a decolonial history of Mexico class with Aliana Wak. She's a professora historian, and she taught us that like the mujeres would be the ones going out into battle, you know, and she has like so many other teachings, but so many things like were revealed, I think, just through learning about our history, like just through learning, you know, what happened prior to what was brought here. That I think is really empowering, right? And it makes sense because I'm just like, yeah, we're chingonas, you know, like we're badass, like, and we have this in our blood and we have this in our bones, where we can go out and we can advocate for healing and we can advocate for being empowered, and we can say like, no, like we're not going to be calladitas, like I'm going to be liberated, I'm going to speak my mind. And, you know, you can think of me as a spicy Latina or whatever. I don't care. Like, this is what needs to happen in order for us to thrive. We have to reject the narrative that it's better to be quiet, that our feelings are not valid, and that we don't deserve support.
That's right. We're using our voices, we're standing up, and we're teaching our kiddos to do the same.
Yeah.
Even the boys too, because I mean, even like our sons too, sometimes, you know, they're like, well, can I, you know, or like, is it safe to cry? And anyway, we can go down that road.
I know, oh my gosh, I know. And it's hard, you know, it's hard. It's in our bodies, right? I think this is why like the work that you're doing is so important, because the way that you experience a child having a tantrum will cause something in your body. Like, it will shift your nervous system, and it's natural. Like, it's normal. Especially if you have trauma, right? Like, especially if there's something in your childhood where maybe you were that child that was not allowed to cry, or you were that child that was not allowed to express. When your child is having a hard time, you will initially, right? If you don't notice it, initially you will start to have a hard time also. It's just the way the brain works. But because of mindfulness, right? Because of being able to be present and noticing, you can start to say things like, my heart is beating really fast right now. I'm feeling so much tension in my belly. And my daughter will hear me say things like that. You know, when she's like on her rant or whatever, I'm just like, listen, I feel really tight in my gut. You know, I feel like my heart is racing really fast. I'm starting to sweat and I'm starting to feel like I want to raise my voice. You know, I'm not even telling her I'm mad, because mad and feelings are pretty subjective, right? Like even just mad, sad, happy, like that's going to mean something different to everybody. But having like a somatic awareness, right? Having somatic awareness through the practice of mindfulness and saying, aquí, you know, me siento apretada aquí, like I feel tight right here. And it's not to scare them, it's to let them know how I'm experiencing my body. Because when I say things like, I feel tight in my throat, another person, child or not, is going to be able to relate to that feeling. You know, and so that practice of mindfulness has to come in with this, and you kind of connect that with the practice of reparenting, right? So it's like, okay, I'm feeling tight, I'm feeling tense here. What does my inner niña need? You know, what does my niña interior need right now? She needs air, she needs to go outside, she needs to ground, she needs to take some space, she needs to drink water. Something I always share with people, I'm like, connect with one of the elements, like in that moment, whatever feels good, right? If you feel hot, connect with water, right? Like meet the opposite element. If you feel like, you know, you're too like, I don't know, just like hard, like a rock, right? Like earth, do something that's gonna like bring air into it, you know, just like bring lightness into it somehow. Dance, you know, throw your dirty laundry in the air, whatever. Play, you know, very air element. And so you can connect that practice of mindfulness also with being mindful of how the elements are showing up in your body and how you can reconnect to an element that's going to soothe that. So, and then that you teach that to your kids too, right? Imagine, right? If we were children and our mothers were like, oh, I feel hot and fiery right here. Voy a tomar agua porque para que se me baje. You know, like, I'll be with you in just a little bit. Like, you're not in trouble. I'm here, but I need to self-regulate. Like I need to text my friend really quick, whatever it is. Imagine, right? Imagine how our children are going to grow up to be these future ancestors who have these tools and who can share those tools. And so that's, to me, the only path towards liberation, justice, thriving, is with these practices of reconnecting back to ourselves, of being mindful of what's happening in our bodies, and of sharing that with other people the way that you do.
Can you imagine if like all those leaders that are doing such terrible things in the world, if they could only self-regulate, if they would take a deep breath, first of all, like that would have made such a huge difference. Imagine the lives that could have been saved.
Yeah.
The
but they're
children that could have been
traumatized.
saved. It's like, you know, but
Yeah.
it's like because they didn't have tools, right? So can you imagine? Wow, now we have the opportunity to teach our children who will be the future leaders.
Yeah.
Teach them how to, okay, tap into that inner peace, you
Yeah.
know, self-regulate before exploding and causing harm.
Yeah. I love that schools are like starting to adopt some of these practices too. My daughter is homeschooled, my 10-year-old, and my 4-year-old is going to start TK next year. But one of the things that they do on Fridays, every Friday is a park day. And so they alternate between different like regional parks or state parks on Fridays. And one of the things that they do every Friday is a meditation. So on Fridays, they do like a guided meditation with the teacher. And one of the things that they did recently is they went to some kind of like farm or ranch, and they did like a horse meditation. So all the children like sat around in a circle, and the horses like go up to you. Like the more still you are, the horse will like come up to you, like right up to your face, you know. And I just find, I'm like, I want to do a horse meditation. Like that's super
Cute.
like when I'm meditating, can someone just pretend to be a horse and come up to me right here?
Aw.
But I love that for the kids, you know. And so it's hard for me to like sit there and actually meditate when there's chaos of my toddler and my 4-year-old around me. But again, it's not about like just sitting there and being the Buddha. You know, the Buddha also went through a lot of chaos. Like there was, if you read like Siddhartha, right, it's a human being. And so it's about kind of like quieting those waters, like, you know, like understanding the waves and not stopping the wave, but recognizing the wave, right? And getting on it and being like, I'm here, like it's okay. I'm being and I'm flowing and it's okay. hard, so hard to practice, because we're really rewiring our brains, right, away from some of the things that we learned when we were children. So I just want to offer that gentleness to people, because there's no one right way to do it. There's tools and suggestions that work for me that may not work for other people, right? And so this is why community is so important. I don't see myself as like the power holder and I have all this knowledge and I'm going to go share it with you. It's like, you already have that wisdom in you. You already have that knowledge, and your community can also offer that to you, right? I'm one person. I don't represent all Latinx parents. I don't represent all Latinx individuals. I just represent myself and my story. But there's power in that, right? There's power in my story and there's power in your story. And that's all we're doing, right? That's all we're doing is just sharing our story and what's supportive to us and what we wish, like you said earlier before we started recording, what we wish we would have had.
Definitely. Leslie, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, we can talk forever.
No.
So I know you have some beautiful offerings that you want to share for our attendees who are ready to invest in themselves. Can you share with us really quick?
Definitely. So we just updated our Ending Chancla Culture workshop. And so for attendees, we're offering $10 off of the workshop. And so the code, I think that you all are going to share what that code is. And so enjoy that. If finances are, even still a burden, please do reach out and we can support you. And then the other thing that we have is a freebie. So we have like a somewhat of like a very short ebook handout with some of these tools, with some of these strategies, with some more information around the Ending Chancla Culture movement and the practices within it.
I love it. Where can we reach out to you and connect and show some amorcito?
Well, yeah, you can follow on Latinx Parenting. So if you just go to @Latinx Parenting on Instagram, I'm also on Twitter and Facebook as well. So you just type in Latinx Parenting and you can go to our website and subscribe just by going to latinxparenting.org. Like if you can subscribe, at least you know what's going on. We're sharing, newsletters once a month just to announce the things that we're doing. This will be a part of our next newsletter. So yeah, those are some of the ways, and you can always DM us or reach out, send us an email and we will be happy to connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie, for your time and for your pearls of wisdom and just beautiful share. And I encourage everyone to really think about investing in yourself and go do that course. It's such a beautiful course made with so much love and intention. So
yes, definitely.
So thank
join
you.
the movement. Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. We are here today with my amazing amiga, beautiful soul inside and out. This is Ana Flores. And Ana, she is a community builder, a soul-centered entrepreneur. Ana Flores is living her passion as the founder and CEO of We All Grow Latina, the first network of Latina digital influencers and creators founded in 2010 with the mission to elevate the voices and stories of Latinas through the power of community. The company's annual We All Grow Summit was named by Forbes.com as one of the 19 conferences every creative should attend in 2018 and again on the 2019 list. That is just amazing. And I'm so excited I get to go this year. She's born in Houston, Texas, raised in El Salvador, and a graduate of the University of Florida. Ana is now settled in Los Angeles, where she lives with her daughter. Ana, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so excited to have this conversation, talking about mindfulness. So welcome.
Thank you. Gracias. Thanks for having me, Yvonne. And I'm so proud of you for making this happen.
Thank you so much. And it just means the world that you are available to do this. And I've learned so much from you being part of the We All Grow Latina community and just learning from you and hearing your advice. It's been super powerful for me as a Latina, trying to find my way and, resting and all these things, right, that I've been learning. It's like, oh my goodness, like such a beautiful space. And I'm so glad that I got to connect with you.
But you know what? The space is what we always say, that we just create the space, but all of you co-create it and all of you make it happen. I mean, you have committed to it. You have committed to showing up for yourself and showing up for everybody else, because you bring in that energy that also allows us to create this beautiful space that we want to have, right? So I commend you for doing that, for actually taking the time and committing to being there.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's true. It's a beautiful community. We're learning and sharing and growing together. I love it. So let's see. So what does mindfulness mean to you?
What does mindfulness means to be? It means presence. It means self-awareness. It means pause, right? What is that pause between our thoughts and our reaction? How do we bring mindfulness into that? Yeah.
I love it. When did you first learn about mindfulness?
I think, well, the actual term mindfulness, right? I don't know if it's the actual term mindfulness and when was the first time I learned about that, but when was the first time I actually meditated, which was actually what opened up a whole new world for me, because I wasn't even conscious about what was going on. So I can tell you that story really quickly. This was back in, so I'll put it out there, because when I start sharing stories, people are like, you were like 10. I'm like, no, I'm actually turning 50 right now. I think I'm already 50 just a few weeks ago. And the first time I meditated was I was living in Miami. I was straight out of college. I was working at Univision as a TV producer. This was like in 97, 98. And I had just broken up with a boyfriend, and it was like a nice breakup and everything. And he gave me this book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, Deepak Chopra. It was the first time that I had like read anything like that. I don't even know how the book ended up in his hands. And, he was just a messenger for a reason. I needed to read that book, and it just started unveiling so many things for me. And at that same time, one of my really good friends that worked with me as well was this big, tall guy, the Venezuela, Bute, like big guy. He's an audio guy, but every time I would spend time with him, I was like, there's something about him. And he would do these like movements with his hand and like energy. And I was like, there's something. We just started calling him the brujo. And he was like, yeah, I'm a shaman. I'm like, whatever that means. So one day I'm hanging out with one of my good girlfriends, like Saturday night, whatever, we had nothing to do. And we're like, llamemos a Bute para que venga a hacer brujerías. Right? And we call Bute and we're like, come do brujerías. We had like no idea what we were talking about. And he's like, okay. He comes over and he like brings incense and candles and whatever. He just kind of, we're there with a few other friends, and he just starts leading us into this beautiful guided meditation. And again, we were kind of like just having fun. We had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden for the first time in my life, I felt energy. And it was beautiful, because I think now that we are so conscious about mindfulness and defining it and meditation and, seeking enlightenment, there's so much pressure that comes into that we actually forget what the experience on its own should be like, right? There, we put in so much expectation into what I'm supposed to feel, because everybody has told me, what enlightenment is supposed to look like, or what meditation should make you feel, etc. I had no idea. So since I had no idea, it was such a raw, pure, authentic experience. And it was this beautiful guided meditation. I still remember it. It was called Azul Profundo. And we were sitting around in a circle, and I could feel the energy just flowing around us. And once I came out of that, it was like the colors looked different. The perspective I had, like even like looking at the sky looked different, you know, like dimensions. It was just like a real kind of like awakening in that moment of coming out. And that is my first moment when I became mindful of that there was something else, right? That there was an energy that I could access, that my mind could reach different things. And I after that, you know, and having the book and everything, it just started unveiling a lot of things and opening up that curiosity as a seeker.
I love it. Was it easy for you or difficult to incorporate now that you had that preview, that experience? You know, how was it implementing it, or did it take a while?
It took a while. It actually was the start of like, it was the start of like a very big journey. After that, you know, I was living in Miami Beach, which was different back then, but it was still like crazy Miami Beach. And my life as a TV producer and hectic life, and having a lot of fun and whatever, but I knew there was something else. So I think more than anything was like that awareness of there's something else that I want to tap into. And I'm not getting the fulfillment with this beautiful life that I had achieved. I was, you know, 2 years out of college, and I was already hanging out with Enrique Iglesias and with, you know, like got to interview Shakira when she first came to the States, and got to do like all these amazing things that I was in my dream job in Univision. But something was missing. And that something missing, I started feeling when I started unveiling those parts. And then I moved, I did the crazy thing of moving to Mexico City. And there was something that was calling me. I didn't know what it was, but at that moment I was already, you know, aware, and that there was something bigger that was calling me, that I was feeling. And it was hard because at that moment in Miami, like I remember looking like yoga classes, like yoga wasn't a thing yet, you know, meditation wasn't really a thing. So how do you follow that up? And for me, it was just starting to get more of an expansive mind, and following what I wanted to. So my spiritual journey is like very long. There's very much more into it, but it was going into Mexico, going through a lot of really, really difficult trials. Once I moved there, many things like, you know, seeing the dark side of humanity, almost losing my life through an ectopic pregnancy, and like all of those things I feel were just moments that I needed to awaken me and to make me like really go deep into the path that became yoga, that became Ayurveda, that became aromatherapy. I mean, so many things that I just started seeking and learning. And Mexico is an amazing place to find learning. I mean, there's therapies and things that I still go to Mexico, like my healers are still there, where I find that I don't have access to here. And so I think that yeah. So long reply to your question. Like I'm still on it.
True. Yeah, it's a journey. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of practice, a lot of learning and learning new things, and being guided to, okay, what else do I need now?
And forgetting, and then coming back and like adding new tools to your spiritual toolbox. But at the end of the day, like we can have all the tools in the world, right? But it is simply just like connecting to our heart, connecting to our joy, connecting to those things that allow us, you know, to flow and to be in the moment.
True. As a Latina mom, and you mentioned, you know, within our conversations with you, We All Grow Latina, rest has been a very big topic. So can you share with us, you know, why is rest so important to you? How did you realize that was important? And then especially as a Latina mom, because it's not common, you know, we're usually taught like, apúrate, hurry up, you know, there's no rest and you were the last one and all of this stuff, right? So can you share a little bit of that? Because I love when you talk about rest and why it's so important in our lives.
And office hours, right? That we're talking about business and all this. And I'm like the rest bully. I'm like always like, no, are you resting? Are you finding time for yourself? Like, you know, beyond self-love and self-care, because self-love is, we confuse self-love with self-care. You know, most of the conversation that we have about that we think of self-love is actually self-care, right? Self-love is hard freaking work. So rest is absolutely important. I mean, even look at women like Arianna Huffington, right? She had to reach the max of her career. I mean, like this amazing top of the world publisher, etc., when she kind of like let not everything go, but like pivoted to her big book was about sleep. Like that's what she talks about now, like how important that is, because rest is so important, because that is where our foundation and where our la fuente comes from, right? That is where what's la fuente? Where everything generates and comes from. It's in those moments of rest. So if we can even just like sit down right now and think about, remember those moments when you got that big idea, when you got that click, that where not only that idea that, you know, so many ideas come and go through us every single day at every moment, but that big idea that stood with you, that you felt the butterflies, that you felt like the expansion, like, oh my God, I can see this happening. And, you know, it's scary, but I know where it comes from. It probably came in a moment when you were either in the shower, when you were driving, when you were, you know, it's those moments of quiet when you can access your thoughts, when you can access your emotions, when you can access your feelings. So why not allow ourselves more of those moments to actually be in the space of creation, right? And remove the self-limiting beliefs and those mentality of lack that tell us that the only way we're going to be successful and produce is by doing. Doing is part of, but we need to have just a larger percentage of that pie be in that, you know, be in rest to allow the doing to be even more effective. So there's a lot more that we can do, and that we can do in a much more successful way, and with a lot more ease and integration, because at the end of the day, isn't that what we're looking for, right? To be able to do things, pero ¿por qué no hacerlo in less hours, with more ease, with less issues and problems coming in? Like that should be part of what we're also looking to manifest and to create. But we can't get there until we remove the very much capitalist mentality that the only way to achieve success is by doing, and by being the first in line, and by always being, you know, the overachiever. That is just a belief that has been implanted in us to keep us in that space of overworked, overtired, because that is not where the actual space of creation comes from. So that's why I believe in rest so much. And how to achieve it, that's you have to make a point of like, I have stopped working on weekends. And mind you, when I was building the business, I had a baby at home, right? I could only work during her nap hours, or whenever she would go to sleep. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. So I knew that there are moments when that happens, right? There are moments when I'm doing Real Grow Summit. I know that the month before that, I'm going to have to take a lot of really good care of myself, because I'm probably not going to be sleeping well. I know that I'm probably going to be working on weekends, etc. But guess what? I already have planned when I'm doing the moment the summit ends, and I'm making time for rest, right? So you have to know how you create those moments for yourself, because it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm always not going to work on weekends. Sometimes we have to. Sometimes we have to sleep 3 hours, and you know, that's okay. But knowing that that's not how it needs to be, how it always needs to be, but it's part of your own negotiation with yourself.
I love it. And, you know, especially, you know, having a daughter, you know, setting that example for her, you know, to allow that rest, and why it's so important, not just the academics and the this and the that, but implementing that rest is so important. And I love how you're setting that example for her. And it's, you know, it's like showing us, you know, that we do participate, you know, in the platforms that you're on when you're speaking, especially in the office hours, right? It's like, that's right, rest is so important. So now it's like, I make sure that my girls, and even my son too, they understand, like, this is my time right now, and I'll put a timer. And if the timer is on, they know, okay, mommy needs her time right now. It's like, I need my rest, you guys, you know, and I want them to learn because it's so important. It's like putting that oxygen mask first, right? We need to take care of ourselves first, and rest is definitely key.
Yeah, because we normalize for them, right, that it's okay to be busy and it's okay to be stressed. And it's not. But even for children, I mean, I hate what we're doing to children, and how stressed they are about things that really at the end of the day don't really matter. Mm-hmm. They're stressed because they need to get into like a certain college, et cetera. But these are things that we have accepted, that we have normalized. And for me, like with my daughter, I am completely about like, no, she's a straight A student because she wants to be, right? That's like her choice in the way that she actually uses her time and etc. But there is never that pressure that she has to be.
What is one tip you would, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, for me, it's more important that she knows how to make really good choices in life. That she follows her heart, that she follows what her passions are. Much more important than, you know, if she messed up and she just wasn't feeling well for the math quiz that she had today, which I know she had a math quiz today and she was freaking out about it. So it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. What is one tip of advice you would give to a fellow Latina mom regarding mindfulness, you know, regarding this umbrella of mindfulness that maybe you wish you had, or maybe you've heard and that was very powerful?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be always said, it's okay to put yourself first, and that there is no selfishness in that at all, because you are that role model to your child. And that's what you want your child to do with their own life, right? Is to understand where they come first, not from the ego place, but from the, I know how to take care of myself. And that means that I know how to take care of you.
I love it. And Ana, where can we find you and follow you and learn more and get more inspiration from you?
Well, you can find me in Amigas, We All Grow Amigas. So it's amigas.weallgrowlatina.com to join. It's free. You'll join over 16,000 other impactful and incredible Latinas like Yvonne. And I actually make space every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for our office hours, which is really open to anybody who wants to come in and share their wins, share what they're struggling with their business or at work. And we have a collective of all of us, those that show up. You know, it's open for anybody who wants to show up at any Tuesday to come in and share. And I am not the expert. I would say we're all the experts. We all have something to offer. But that's always like, and that's the space where I make available to connect. Unfortunately, I can't do one-on-ones because of the nature of our business. And I think if I close We All Grow and do coaching and consulting, I will be better off financially than I am right now, because the business is a monster. But what we do is create those safe spaces for all of you to connect and to know and believe that you're capable of anything.
And you offer so many things too within that platform.
Oh, we offer fun things. Like we have screenings of movies, we have events, we have wellness events, virtual events, a lot, obviously. We offer a lot of virtual events every single week, like 2 to 3 of them every week, plus Holding Hands, which is Wendy Amara, a coach. I know that you've also made use of that. It's like a free hour of coaching with the fabulous coach that has been doing this for over 15 years.
So good.
Every single week for the last 2 years. So people that have actually like committed to that obviously have seen a huge change and evolution. And all of this is free to the community. And we offer it thanks to the work that we do with our brand sponsors.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I invite everybody to go join us there on the We All Grow Amigas platform. Such a beautiful space. And yeah, any last parting words? I really appreciate you taking your time from your super busy schedule. And I know you're preparing on so many beautiful things, and like the summit, I'm so excited about coming up at the end of September. And so if anybody's curious about that, go to the Amigas platform. The link will be in the description.
Sold out.
Yes, it is.
Sold out. We sold out within 3 hours. But we do have, yes, thank you community for showing up. But we do have other events that we have, you know, we're putting together under our sleeve. So just make sure that you sign up to our newsletter, and Amigas is always the first place where we announce things.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ana. I really appreciate your time and just everything you share, your pearls of wisdom. I appreciate you
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Gracias. Un besito. Bye. Hi there, my name is Yvonne Hernandez. I am the owner and founder of Decide Balance, Decide Balance, a bilingual healing space for families to find tools and resources to connect to that inner peace and to bring calm to the chaos. I'm so excited that you're here today. If you are listening to this right now, that means you've experienced a beautiful and amazing conversation these last few days. Everything was made with so much love and so much intention. This was created for you to help give you the tools and the resources to help up-level your life. These are tools and resources that I didn't have growing up, and I wish I had 20 plus years ago. It would have helped me. All of this would have helped me tremendously, especially as I became a parent. You know, we're not handed a manual or instructions or anything, right, to help guide us, to lead us to becoming better parents or good parents. And it would have helped with my mental health. It was definitely a roller coaster. And now I'm so excited I get to share this with you. Whether you are a mom for a while, or a new mom, or gonna be a mom, or thinking about it, or a caregiver, or a parent, or just, you know, someone that needs the extra tools and resources, or just needs tools and resources to help, you know, with our mental health, which is so, so important. And so I'm just so glad that we're here and that we're having this conversation, a much needed conversation. All of these topics, everything falls under the mindfulness umbrella. The first day was kicked off by my amiga, my mentor, Linda Garcia, talking about money mindfulness. Money is definitely a topic that was not easy to talk about. You know, growing up in this lack mentality definitely affected my decisions and just the way I view money, you know, thinking that money is not good, that it's bad, that you can't make a lot of money because it brings a lot of, you know, bad things. But in reality, we are worthy of making more money because we help ourselves, we help our families, you know, near and far, and we can help others. We can share the wealth. We are creating generational wealth by allowing ourselves to be open to receiving these tools to help us with money. So money does fall under the mindfulness umbrella. And that was definitely something that I had to learn and, you know, work through. And I'm still working through all my, you know, through my money story. And so I hope that you took notes and that you are now thinking about money in a different way that's going to help you and your family and future generations. And then we have another amazing amiga, Cynthia Pearson, and she talked about mindful parenting, how to balance love and discipline. Wow, can you imagine if we had, you know, this beautiful presentation, if our ancestors, you know, or, you know, just grandparents and great-grandparents had, you know, this presentation, this conversation, these tools and resources to go about parenting in a more calm way. You know, they did what they could with what they had. But can you imagine now our kids are going to learn from us, you know, us as a parents, now approaching discipline from a place of love, in, you know, parenting, you know, from a place of love, and how to discipline from a place of love, you know, instead of, you know, anger or just, you know, anything negative or that could, you know, harm our children. And we don't want to harm our children. Sure, you know, we would like for them to get things done and clean their room and all this stuff. And, you know, when they don't behave and, you know, but there's different ways of handling those situations. So hopefully you took notes on all of that. And then we have another amazing amiga, Sandra Hinojosa Ludwig, talking about raising the new world through curiosity and compassion. What a beautiful conversation. I just really loved how, you know, we are addressing kids, right? I mean, this is for us as moms, you know, as parents, as, you know, adults, but we also have to address, you know, our children, the future world changers, the future ancestors, like Leslie likes to refer to them, and, you know, how to guide them, you know, and allow them to be okay, to be curious, and to come from this place of compassion. You know, wow, can you imagine if the leaders around the world would do things, you know, would come from a space of curiosity and compassion instead of like hate and violence? You know, wow, this world would be so much different and it would be so much better. So now our kids have this opportunity to learn, from this. And I hope that you took notes and are ready to start making those little changes. Even if it's just a little bit at a time, it makes a world of a difference. And then we have another amazing amiga, another mentor, Rosalia Rivera, talking about consent, kids and cultura, why education for all generations is key to breaking cycles and empowering communities. Wow, such a powerful conversation, just about boundaries and just changing so much. We've been through so much, we're going through so much, and we can now change things. We're changing how things are going to happen in the future for the better, of course, right? Because now we have all these tools. And so just teaching us how to break these cycles. It's important. First of all, like learning that, there's cycles to break. I didn't even know this, years ago. And now that I know, it's like, wow, just having this awareness of coming from this different space and how to approach things in this different way. Beautiful conversation. Hopefully you took notes as well. And I would love to hear, what you took from it as well. Then day 2, we had another amazing amiga, Valentina Izarra, adopting mindful thoughts, the key to emotional mastery. Wow, mindset has been huge. All of these topics, right? But mindset played a huge role in this healing journey. I didn't even know what mindset was or how to begin or none of that stuff. And wow, our thoughts play such a huge role. And we don't even having the awareness that we're having these thoughts, right? Because it's usually going to be something that we're going to say, is it going to be something good or something bad? Will it help someone or will it harm someone? But now that we have the awareness, how our thoughts play a huge role, it's all about our mindset. And now we can teach our kids, they're going to learn from us as well. And so teaching them, guiding them. So all of this that we're learning, they're going to learn too. And so such beautiful tips and advice. And hopefully you're taking those action steps as well. And then we had another amazing amiga, Nicolette Guillen, guiding us through radical self-love with EFT tapping. That was a fun session. So hopefully you got to tap along with me or with us and help to release that stagnant energy that's locked into our bodies, our cells, our muscles. I didn't even know what EFT tapping was years ago. And now that I know, wow, game changer, because now I can teach my kids. I don't need anything other than my hands, right? And so I hope that this served you, that you were open to practicing and are open to continue practicing, that it's going to really help you so, so much. And then we had another amazing amiga, Giselle Martin, talking about intuitive income streams. As moms, we're natural entrepreneurs. We are octopus. That's what our kids think, that we can do everything at once. And we do. We usually multitask everything. I don't even know how we do it, but we do it, right? And we're creative. We come up with things and we get things done. So how about getting paid for all of these things that we're doing? So hopefully you took notes, because that was, such eye-opening, conversation. So beautiful. And then we had another amazing amiga, my mentor, my coach, Wendy Amara, how to build a great relationship with time by learning to say no. Wow, the power of no, oh my goodness, has been huge for me. Saying no to things, usually we're people pleasers. We're trying to, say yes to everyone and help everyone, but we got to think of ourselves too, right? We need to give ourselves that time, that space that we need, and open it up to things that really do serve us, that really do help us. And plus, by practicing that, by saying no and how, it helps us with our time, it's teaching our kids too, we don't have to do everything that everyone is asking for us, plus we can delegate things too, right? And so owning our time has been huge, and having that beautiful relationship with time. I always felt like I never had time for everything, right? But now that I get to choose and I get to say no to things and feel confident in saying that, game changer. Talk about up leveling. And then day 3, we talked to another amazing amiga, Eunice Montes Hamaguchi, talking about mindful beauty, a holistic approach to beauty. I've learned so much about clean beauty. I mean, I didn't even know what this was until a few years ago. Our makeup is toxic and it's such a huge industry, right? And the stuff that they put in our products, I mean, not just makeup, but products, shampoo, soap, deodorant, and even like cleaning stuff. Wow, I hope you took notes because it changes everything. I mean, it's everything that we're putting in our skin, it's pretty much being absorbed into our blood system. So think about that. And if you use any products on your kiddos, think about that too. How will it affect them? And even though it's just a little bit, but think of that hourglass, right? Like it's like one little, grain of salt and then another, and then there's like this huge pile of salt. So the same thing. So I really hope you are considering on making that change and shifting to clean beauty, not just your makeup, but everything, all your products, even your feminine products. Come on, if you're a woman, if you have your cycles, make that change as well. Game changer, seriously. And then another amazing amiga, Joanna Benavides, led us through a sound bath, sound healing to distress. If you've never experienced a sound bath, I really hope that you enjoyed this, that you took this as time for you to rest, to let go, like really, really rest. That deep rest that we're yearning for. I know I did. Where was Joanna, years ago when I, was a new mom, 12, almost 13 years ago. And wow, sound healing is just so beautiful. So now you have this recording and it's one of the bonuses as well. So I'm so excited, that you got to experience this beautiful therapy, this beautiful way of resting. So now you can just plug it in, listen, when you have like 4 hours, till baby has to wake up, man, that deep rest is key. So I hope you enjoyed it. And then we had another beautiful conversation with Stephanie Acosta talking about Latinx visibility and wellness. I love that we had this conversation because representation does matter. Usually we don't try new things because we don't see ourselves in that space. We don't see a teacher that is teaching that specific yoga or meditation or breath work or mindfulness or whatever it is, that we're curious about. But how about step up like Stephanie? How about like me, we're out there, we're learning it and we're teaching others. Like, come on. Let's go. Let's us be the teachers, right? Or just be the teacher to your child, to your children. Representation is important. So I hope that you are considering, looking for ways of stepping up into that, being visible, in the wellness space. It's so, so important. And then we had another amazing amiga share her beautiful presentation, Yolanda Lopez Hagabuk. Making room for real life inside your wellness plan. So I really hope that you enjoyed her presentation. I mean, really talking about having that plan, right? Having wellness in your plan, in your lifestyle, and not feel overwhelmed by it. Making it easy. It's not just about surviving, but, it's about thriving, especially during these crazy times, right, that we're going through. And so, and unlearning everything that we've had, to create this new plan. So I hope that you took notes and are considering, approaching, and, changing how you view wellness and adding wellness, to your lifestyle. And how everything is connected to mindfulness, right? It's like that mind, body, gut connection. It's just so beautiful the way she lays it out. So it's my hope that you took notes and learned from her as well. And then on this last day, we had another amazing amiga, my mentor, Vanessa Colorniu, talking about practical intuition, how mindfulness strengthens our natural intuition. I didn't even know what intuition was years ago. And now that I'm able to connect, I feel like Intuition is like God talking to me, guiding me, telling me these messages like, what do I need to do to take, what's the next step? How can I help my family? How can I help myself? How can I help the world? And really, really connecting to your intuition has been key. And my hope is that you start connecting. What is that feeling? Do you hear the messages? Do you just know? Do you see? We all have these gifts, right? And just having the awareness and practicing connecting in these ways, and it's just beautiful. So hopefully you took notes and you enjoyed the experience that we did together. And then we have another amazing amiga, Leslie Priscilla, talking about ending chancla culture, decolonizing our familias, and raising future ancestors. Okay, first of all, I just love the way she referenced our children. Future ancestors. I mean, they are the future abuelitos, abuelitas, the future grandparents, great-grandparents to someone, right? And it's like, wow. I mean, that was impactful. Learning so much about chancla culture. If you didn't raise, if you weren't raised with the chancla, maybe you were raised with, the whip, the stick, the belt, the, just the hand. I mean, it's all the same thing. And so learning to approach parenting without any of those things, it was huge, right? It's a lot to unpack. But we needed to have that conversation because, we hear like, oh, the chancla, whatever, and it's just funny, but actually it's traumatizing for a lot of people. So I hope that you took notes and, listen to the tips, to the pearls of wisdom that she had to share so we can start making that shift to end the chancla culture. Our kids deserve better. And now that we know, when you know better, you do better. So now we know, and so now we're going to do better. All of us, right? And then last but not least, another amiga, amazing mentor, Ana Flores, talking about the importance of rest. Rest, oh my gosh, it chokes me up because that was the hardest thing for me to learn, to accept that we need rest. Rest is so important. We're in this world of zoom, 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 and sometimes literally, right? Zoom, zoom, zoom. Or this hustle mentality that you have to hustle, hustle, hustle. And if you don't hustle, you're not going anywhere. We don't listen to our bodies. Then we get sick. We start falling apart. Our mental health, suffers. Our bodies suffer. Our families suffer because we can't function, we can't serve from an empty cup. And, like when they tell you on the airplane, if you've been on an airplane, they tell you to put your oxygen mask first and then help someone else. Exactly. So we need to rest. We need to rest first, and we need to be okay with it. So if you need permission to rest, I'm giving you permission to rest. Rest for yourself. Rest for your ancestors who maybe didn't have the opportunity to rest for whatever reason. And rest for future generations, for the future ancestors. Let's change this no rest, cycle that we live in this, generational, terrible of no rest. We need rest. Rest is important. So if you feel guilty for taking a nap, a power nap, a 20-minute nap, 15-minute nap, put your timer on that clock and show your kids, Mama needs her rest right now. This time is for me. I need it. Or go to the bathroom and take an extra 5 minutes and rest. Take some deep breaths and take that time for yourself. And be there for yourself. It's just so important to rest. So it is my hope that you now have a new awareness to mindfulness with all these beautiful topics that we talked about. Mindfulness was the key, was the common thread to all of the conversations. It's so important for us to learn, to start making those changes, for us to practice even just a little bit, and then add a little bit more, and a little bit more to your lifestyle, And then it just becomes part of your lifestyle. It just becomes a habit. And your kids will learn from that. They will learn that resting is okay. They will learn to, about money, about intuition, about mindset, about, oh my goodness, about parenting, about discipline, about visibility, so many things, about everything that we talked about. They're gonna learn from us because we're practicing, right? We're their teachers. Whether we like it or not, we are their teachers, we are their mentors. And so now they're learning from us, the future world changers. That's what I call them, because they are gonna change the world. And they're gonna change it for better because now they have the tools to experience life on a whole new level. So many years ago, I heard this beautiful quote by the Dalai Lama where he says, "If every 8-year-old in the world is taught meditation, we will eliminate violence within 1 generation." And that blew my mind because my kids are that age range. And I 100% believe my kids will witness world peace. That's why I call the kids world changers, the future world changers. They're going to bring peace to the world. And so I'm on a mission to teach meditation to 1 million children. And I invite you to join me in this beautiful mission to help bring world peace by planting seeds of world peace with our children, the future world changers, the future ancestors, to make this world a better place. Our generation and generations past have really messed it up. Not all of us, but we know. So many things could be better. Can you imagine if world leaders around the world were coming from a place of compassion, if they just knew how to breathe, if they knew about mindset, if they knew about intuition, all these tools, right? What if they knew all of these things? We would not be having wars. There wouldn't be violence. There wouldn't be hate. All these negative, low vibe things, right? Emotions and characteristics and all of this stuff. It just wouldn't. There wouldn't be any room for it. So let's lock arms together and help bring these beautiful tools first to ourselves. Let's fill our own cup first. And then to our families, to our kids, so that they can make better decisions and help the world. So the world can be better, a better place for all of us and for the future world changers, for the future ancestors, for the future of humanity. There's only one of us, one unique, beautiful, amazing us in this world, and we need to take care of ourselves. And by doing so, it's going to overflow into our families. I promise you, it does. So thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope you consider investing in yourself and upgrading to the bonus that we have, to the Regalitos All Access Pass if you haven't done so. Such beautiful, beautiful regalitos from the speakers and from other Latina entrepreneurs who have so graciously contributed to this summit, to this beautiful conversation that was so necessary, so needed. And these are tools that are going to help you, once we end this conversation, once we end this recording. But now, once you upgrade and you invest in yourself, you'll have this recording for life. And you're going to get all these regalitos, all these gifts, from workbooks to presentations to guides to all these gifts to master classes. It's so beautiful, unbelievable, all the stuff you're getting. And it's over $3,500. The value is over $3,500. So consider investing in yourself. Consider investing in your children, your future children, the future ancestors, the future world changers. That investment, that upgrading ticket, it's going to come back 100-fold, 1,000 times fold, 1,000-fold, guaranteed. It's just so beautiful. And that was one of the key things that I learned, to invest in myself. And I've seen it. I've seen the return more than 100 times fold. Seriously. It's just so beautiful. Once you invest in yourself and you say yes to yourself, it's just beautiful. The things that happen, the way things align. So, so beautiful. So thank you again. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for listening, and for taking this time for you. This time for you to learn and to receive. Thank you so much. Adios.